Cleared city traders speak out against rate-rigging prosecutions. In a striking revelation, traders from the City of London who were wrongfully convicted in the wake of the financial crisis have come forward to share their harrowing experiences. They assert that they were unfairly made scapegoats in a larger narrative of blame. Tom Hayes, notably the first among 9 traders prosecuted by the Serious Fraud Office, found himself at the center of this controversy. In 2012, he faced serious allegations of manipulating the London interbank offered rate, LIBOR, a crucial interest rate that influenced loans and financial contracts across the global economy. This rate was determined daily based on the submissions from several major banks, making it a pivotal element of the financial system. Initially, Mr. Hayes received a staggering 14-year prison sentence, one of the harshest penalties ever imposed for white-collar crime. He spent over 5 years behind bars, including time in the notorious high-security Belmarsh prison. After the Supreme Court eventually overturned his conviction, he spoke candidly to Sky News about the profound personal toll of his imprisonment. "I came out of prison to a son who was 9 years old, whom I had left when he was just 3. My marriage fell apart while I was incarcerated, and my mental health deteriorated significantly during that time," he recounted. Mr. Hayes expressed his belief that he was unjustly held accountable for the broader damages inflicted by the financial crisis. "There was a prevailing sentiment at the time that demanded bankers be punished. We were simply in the wrong place at the wrong time," he lamented. Joining him in this fight for justice is Carlo Palombo, who was convicted in 2019 for manipulating the EURIBOR, the euro equivalent of LIBOR. Mr. Palombo described his experience in Wandsworth Prison, where he spent the majority of his days confined in a cramped cell shared with another inmate. He articulated his view that he was a victim of a systematic purge orchestrated by banks and regulators eager to distance themselves from the fallout of the financial crash. "The actions I was accused of were conducted openly by everyone involved. It was merely standard business practice within the bank," he asserted. The Supreme Court judges ultimately concluded that both men were denied fair trials, as the juries were misled in their original cases. They were effectively instructed to view their actions as dishonest, without the juries independently reaching that conclusion. Now, both men are striving to rebuild their lives. Mr. Hayes has expressed a desire to relocate to the coast and focus on mending his family relationships. But here's where it gets controversial. Are these traders truly victims of a flawed system, or did they play a part in the financial misconduct? What do you think? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Bankers' trial and LIBOR scandal, lessons for the UK legal system. In a dramatic turn of events, 2 bankers have been vindicated, but the British legal system now faces tough questions. On July 23, 2025, we revisit the cases of Tom Hayes and Carlo Palombo, whose convictions for financial manipulation have sparked intense debate. Were Tom Hayes and Carlo Palombo unfairly targeted just because they were bankers? This is a question that has lingered since their initial convictions. In 2015, Tom Hayes, who previously worked for UBS and Citigroup, was found guilty of conspiring to manipulate the LIBOR, a crucial benchmark interest rate. His sentence of 14 years in prison was as severe as the maximum penalty for blackmail. Then, in 2019, Carlo Palombo, formerly of Barclays, received a 4-year sentence for tampering with EURIBOR, another significant benchmark. Both men were eventually released in 2021, but the controversy surrounding their cases remains. But here's where it gets controversial. Critics argue that the harsh sentences reflect a broader societal backlash against the banking industry, especially in the wake of the global financial crisis. Some believe that Hayes and Palombo were made scapegoats for systemic issues within the financial sector. However, supporters of the legal system contend that the sentences were justified given the severity of the crimes and the potential impact on global markets. And this is the part most people miss. The legal proceedings against Hayes and Palombo also exposed gaps in regulatory oversight and the complexity of financial regulations. These cases highlight the need for clearer guidelines and more robust enforcement mechanisms to prevent similar incidents in the future. What do you think? Did the British legal system overreach in these cases, or were the sentences appropriate given the context? Share your thoughts in the comments below. LIBOR scandal bombshell. convictions overturned after decade-long battle. In a dramatic turn of events, justice has finally caught up with a decade-long legal battle that shook the financial world. Two former city traders, Tom Hayes and Carlo Palombo, have had their convictions overturned by the UK Supreme Court, clearing their names after years of turmoil. This case, which was once seen as emblematic of widespread corruption in the banking sector, now raises critical questions about fairness, accountability, and whether the true culprits were ever held responsible. The story begins over 10 years ago when both men were convicted for allegedly manipulating key interest rates, LIBOR and EURIBOR, that influence borrowing costs across countless loans, from mortgages to car financing deals. These benchmarks affect trillions of dollars worth of financial transactions globally. At the time, prosecutors argued that these traders engaged in unethical practices to benefit their banks during one of the darkest periods of modern finance, the 2008 financial crisis. But here's where it gets controversial. Were these individuals really villains, or were they scapegoats? Hayes and Palombo maintained throughout their ordeal that what they did wasn't illegal but rather part of standard industry practices at the time. They claimed they became targets because authorities needed someone to blame amidst public outrage over the economic collapse. And this is the part most people miss. The broader context reveals how central banks and even governments may have played roles in similar manipulations under extreme pressure. After serving significant prison sentences, 5.5 years for Hayes and 4 years for Palombo, they are finally free. Outside the courtroom, Hayes described his experience as cruel and pernicious, emphasizing how being labeled an international fugitive tore apart his family life. He missed much of his son's childhood and saw his marriage crumble under the weight of his conviction. For him, vindication feels surreal yet incomplete. No amount of compensation can undo the damage done, he told reporters, adding that moving forward won't be easy. Palombo echoed similar sentiments, describing his journey through the legal system as a crazy experience. Overwhelmed with relief and happiness, he admitted he still hadn't fully processed the news. Both men expressed gratitude for the ruling while acknowledging the scars left behind. So, why does this matter today? The Serious Fraud Office, SFO, which initially brought charges against them, decided not to pursue retrials, citing a lack of public interest. However, critics argue that this saga exposes deep flaws in the justice system. Conservative MP Sir David Davis went so far as to call for a complete overhaul, accusing regulators and government agencies of colluding to make examples out of low-level employees instead of addressing systemic issues within the banking sector. Legal experts suggest this decision could pave the way for others implicated in the scandal to seek exoneration. Elizabeth Robertson, a lawyer representing another trader until 2016, believes the Supreme Court's judgment might even invalidate guilty pleas made by some defendants who accepted responsibility under duress. If true, this would cast further doubt on the integrity of the entire process. At its core, the LIBOR scandal illuminated the murky intersection of ethics, regulation, and profit in global finance. Discovered in 2012, it revealed that banks artificially adjusted rates to boost profits or conceal vulnerabilities during the height of the financial meltdown. While individual traders bore the brunt of criminal prosecutions, evidence suggests that higher powers, including central banks and political leaders, may have been complicit in manipulating rates themselves. Shockingly, such evidence was suppressed during earlier trials, leaving many to wonder if the real architects of the scheme remain untouched. As we reflect on this landmark ruling, one thing is clear: there are no winners here. Families were torn apart, careers destroyed, and trust eroded, all without addressing the root causes of the crisis. Now, as Hayes and Palombo attempt to rebuild their lives, the question remains: should we revisit how we hold powerful institutions accountable? Or should we accept that sometimes justice serves only to punish the pawns while protecting the kings? What do you think? Do you believe these traders deserve sympathy, or are they simply reaping what they sowed? Share your thoughts in the comments below.